Okay, it is 8 o'clock, so we are going to start the meeting. I'll start the meeting for the Williams County Planning and Zoning Commission, special meeting for Monday, June 28th, 8 a.m. Roll call, please.
Mark? Here. Chris?
Here.
Sherelle? Dan? Barry?
Here.
Shane?
Here.
Louise?
Here.
Adam?
Here.
Tate?
Here, we do have a quorum. We'll proceed. We have one item to discuss, and this is the T-norm landfill, so to speak, out for Wisco, west of town. The reason for the meeting is to get us the comments from Round Prairie Township and see what they had to say about it, whether they're for or against it, the pros and cons, and go from there. So Sam, with that being said, and this is not a public hearing, it is simply a public meeting. If we do have comments or questions, we may have you come back up though, if that'd be okay, and go from there. So Sam, go ahead.
So just a bit of follow-up. So at the June 17th regularly scheduled Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, this item was tabled in order to obtain Round Prairie Township comment. Round Prairie Township met on June 23rd, and thus a special meeting was scheduled for this commission. The Round Prairie Township did recommend denial. I was out on Friday, so I'm not sure if we received physical comment form. No comment. So they did recommend denial with no comment. Sherelle did email me saying that she would be at this meeting. That was on Thursday, I believe, Thursday or Friday.
Thanks, Sam. Okay. I guess let's have some discussion and see where it all goes. Anybody wish to make any comments?
Just a comment, Mr. Chairman. Going back to the meeting, the last meeting, I do want to give an apology to the planning and zoning staff and the commissioners that met as a committee. I was probably out of line saying that time was wasted through the moratorium. I know that it was not. It was just, I just felt like even after the moratorium that we as a planning and zoning commission weren't any more equipped to make a decision on the applications than we were before the moratorium. And if I was out of line, I apologize for feeling that way. But even today, I still think there's some really serious questions that we need answers to that we need before we can make a decision. I mean, just off the top of my head, how many tons of T-norm do we want in our county? Is the T-norm, the waste, is it a cradle to grave type deal where the waste generator owns the waste from cradle to grave? It's a serious issue when it comes to cleanup. Or does the landfill owner operator own the waste afterwards and is ultimately responsible for the cleanup should we need it? I mean, just some real critical questions that I had in my mind going forward.
Thank you, Chris. And just for the record, Sherelle is present, so please identify her if you would in the book. Anybody else wish to make any comments? I did receive a few. Go ahead, Barry or Adam.
Oh, I was just gonna address that deal with, it is a cradle to grave, setup, but, 25, 50 years down the road, I don't know if there's something set in place. So there's always gonna be, ownership contribution from the companies themselves if they were to just quit or go bankrupt or get bought out or it is a cradle grave thing, but I don't know how far the financial responsibility carries. I mean, we've seen that with these abandoned well things. It's or orphaned wells. Companies are still around. we're using public money to build them, so makes me wonder too, Chris.
Thanks, Barry. Any other comments?
I think, because I mean, last time I voted no against it, and that was really hard thinking wise. If we could have a cap, same thing, long-term thing, on Landfill Hill, we smell H2S. We cannot get a hold of the site where it's from. It's a runaround. That's my fear in the long run. Are we going to have to, right now, within the moratorium, there was a study done. I reviewed the study. I saw the checklist, but that's great. That's today. What's going to happen in 25 years to 50 years from now, or even 15 years? So I think the structure that looking for long-term, the accountability, there needs to be something in place, as well as a cap, because once it gets passed, if it gets passed, then I could see 2 years later saying, hey, we're filling up, we need to increase this. Hey, we're filling up, we need to increase this. I know it's very low right now. I know there's not a high risk. I mean, again, that was laid out very clearly by you guys to us, as well as in the packets. But again, we need to almost say, okay, this is where we're starting. I have a feeling you guys are going to try to push it because this is a business thing as well.
I would just, go ahead. Anybody else have any comments? Dan, anything?
Tate, I just have a
Yep,
comment. I just wanted to record that I received a call from Doug Iverson saying he was opposed to this. Apparently, he was out of town, so hadn't contacted planning and zoning.
Okay, thanks, Cheryl. I received a few phone calls, quite a few phone calls, some for it, some against it. I received an email, which I believe everybody should have gotten a copy. I did send it to staff to disperse. And my question still that I ask is, obviously we know this is a integral part of the oil industry, but my question remains is why are other counties not doing this? Whether it's McKinsey, I guess the 17 energy producing counties in the state, why are they not promoting or pushing this concept in their counties? Why is it just Williams County? And I don't know the answer. Nobody can give me that answer. Unless you guys, I don't know. That's my question of concern. Well, one of them, but that's just a quick comment.
Question that I have, and I apologize for not being here for the last meeting and the amount of noise that was feeding back through my Bluetooth, which I was unaware of because I'm not smart enough to get a text message and listen at the same time. There's other areas in the state that have coal mines that are reclaimed. Wouldn't a 150-foot cap be better than a 10-foot cap? Has anybody looked at those areas? Has anybody studied those areas of the reclamated coal mines to see if that's a better solution? It's not as handy a solution, but is that a better solution for this stuff?
And I don't know if you guys can answer that. I don't know.
So myself, I guess I agree completely with what Dan was talking about there with the coal mines. And my biggest worry would be if we approve this and then somebody does look into the coal mine part and it turns out to be it's a lot better solution, but we're already set up camp here. We don't want to change now. So I'm a little more hesitant than I was at the last meeting.
Thanks, Barry.
Just for the record, we do have a representative from the DEQ here today if you do have specific questions for her.
Yep. I mean, if any of you can answer that, yep, come on up. Yep, you're good.
Paul Swenson with Bar Engineering Company. We work for Wisco. I don't think we have a specific answer to that. We have not studied that exact situation. A couple of concerns would come to mind. One would be, of course, transporting the waste that far. The landfill that Wisco has is a state-of-the-art landfill. It has a liner system and leachate collection. The coal mines don't. We would have to, I assume, would have to build a lined facility there. Or it has potential to leak. I think the other thing that comes to mind is what Dave Glatz had mentioned at the last meeting of the Argonne National Laboratory study that indicated that if all the systems failed on the landfill for environmental protection, and you had a homestead on top of it, still there would be no long-term impact to those residents. So just things to think about.
Thanks, Paul. Any other comments?
I guess I'll just reiterate, my comment from last time is, along with you, Tate, we're the only county looking at it. They're talking about lowering the transportation of this stuff. We're right on the Montana border, so we just go across with ours. Now you got the other 3 oil-producing counties. They're gonna come all the way across our county to dump into the furthest point in our county. So to me, the traffic is gonna be 3- or 4-fold compared to what we have right now. So that's why I think we have more of a traffic problem than anything of traffic in across the county.
Thanks, Mark.
Good morning. I'm Kayla Emmons, Facility Manager for Wisco. I just want to make a few comments. The first one is the traffic. I do get everybody's point on why is Williams County the only one looking at getting this permit. And the only thing I can think of is it's very expensive. Wisco and Secure Energy have both been going through this since 2015. It costs a lot of money, and there's a lot of avenues that we have to go through to try to get this permit. So I think that's the reason why other counties aren't getting this permit or trying to get them right now. And plus, this is hot topic, right? Because we're the first landfill. We would be the first landfill in North Dakota to accept T-norm. The second thing I'd say is the T-norm's already there. North of the highway there's lots of T-norm over there that needs to be shipped outbound. I've got waste that has to go to Idaho. I've got waste that has to go to Montana. So it's already being trucked there. We get waste anywhere from Newtown, Keene, Watford, Johnson's Corner, Tioga, Minot, everywhere, and it gets shipped to Wisco. Secure as well, all their FSTs, they all get T-norm, and it's tracked across everyone's counties, unfortunately. So that's the only comment I have to make about the T-norm.
So how are you storing this stuff right now then? Is it just sitting on the ground or what?
Nope. Unfortunately, with the windstorm that we had 2 buildings, giant buildings that we store T-norm in. Unfortunately, one collapsed during that storm 2 weeks ago. And so now we only have 1 building, and that's where the T-norm is kept. And then also when we process and we centrifuge our waste, that cake comes out as well in the building. And so we've got 50 foot of clay underneath our entire site, and it's also cemented inside that building is where we store it currently.
Yep, come on up.
Diana Trussell, Solid Waste Program Manager at North Dakota Department of Environmental Quality. So just to answer a few of the questions that have come up regarding like the financial assurance or the cradle to grave. All waste is cradle to grave with it from the generator with it. So the generator is responsible. We do ask our landfills to keep all those records of where they got the waste from. We have had a very select few cases where we've actually gone back to the generators and asked them to help with it. In addition, if for some reason that generator cannot be found with it, say they have gone out of business, all of these sites also have financial assurance. Right now, today, even outside of the T-norm, our landfills have financial assurance obligations for closure and post-closure care. We're talking into the millions of dollars, anywhere from a couple million, sometimes to 10+ million. It is adjusted annually for inflation. So it's not that they just put up a certain number the day they get their permit. And on top of that, if a site does get a T-norm permit, they're required to have $1 1/8 million just for radiation. And that's for a cleanup in case something happens. It's held just for those. The facilities can't touch that money. It's in the name of the state, so we have the ability to get that. They can't spend it for fines or penalties or for actually any of their closure costs or cleanup costs other than that radiation one, and that's if the state says they need to do that with it. As far as why we're not seeing others apply, I think it really gets down to the money, issue with it. The solid waste permit's actually comparatively cheap compared to the radiation control license. It's only $20,000 to apply. I mean, for me, that's a lot of money, but compared to radiation where you're talking over $100,000 for an annual fee with it. So they have to look at that from a financial standpoint as to whether or not that's going to make their business viable with it. I think there was a question related to why these aren't going into the, why a coal mine wouldn't be used. We had not specifically studied that situation because they don't have the protections in place. When we did the Argonne National Laboratory study, we specifically had them look at our oil field special waste sites, gave them the liner designs, the final cover requirements, and then asked what would be a safe disposal limit with it, the concerns we'd have with the mines. That would be under PSC's jurisdiction with it. We would probably end up working with them, but I can't speak to what's underneath, and then you'd have the coal veins potentially, there, and that's gonna be a direct conduit to groundwater with it. So the sites that we had them study is we knew we had safeguards in place and then asked what additional ones we'd have to put in. And that's why we have the 10-foot separation between the top of the T-norm and the top of the final cover, because we just wanted an extra buffer in there. Regarding looking at sites, 10, 15, 20 plus years down the road, once the site closes, they have a minimum of a 30-year post-closure care with the solid waste program with it. If everything looks fine at that point, we can release it. If we're not sure, if we're still seeing issues with groundwater, the final cover's not performing the way it should, we can extend that indefinitely with it. And we've done that with a few sites. It's taken them a few extra years because we want to make sure they're good to go with it, and that's also why it's always on the deed. So it's buyer beware in case someone does purchase and they know what they can and cannot do. And the records are always held at the state with it. Records are kept for perpetuity for these sites with it. Any other questions I missed? I apologize.
Yeah, I have one. Everything we've been talking about is more like the cuttings or the dirt or whatnot, but some of the contaminated equipment, like the tanks themselves, the treaters, line heaters, tubing, the hard equipment. Are these sites going to be able to take that into, or is this only just what, like dirt?
They could take any of the kind of contaminated equipment, provided it reads under 100 micro-R per hour. It's a screening limit with it. So depending on how contaminated it is whether they could take it or not. If it is over that, then they're going to have to still continue to go out of state with that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Dan?
So so does that count as the same tonnage, like the pipe and the tanks, as the dirt?
Yep, so all of these sites, regardless if it's going to be a dirt material or if it's the contaminated equipment, they're held to that 25,000 tons per year limit. We are not able to variance that part of it. That's why we set it up that way with it, so each site would be held to that per year. And then no more than 3,000 tons in a month. We can variance the 3,000 tons if there's a special cleanup project, but they can't exceed that 25,000 tons per year limit. To kind of put that in perspective, I think once we started tracking, I believe the highest amount of T-norm waste that's been hauled out of state is right around that 100,000 ton mark, and that was, towards kind of the height of activity.
Okay. Any other questions for Dan? Okay. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks.
Okay. You've heard a lot of comments. What would you like to do? How would you like to proceed?
Mr.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to make a motion to deny.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion?
I'd like to see some alternatives looked at. I'd like to see some exploration of some other sites, some abandoned coal mines. I think this area has borne the brunt of the impact, and I don't know that the community is in favor of taking on any more.
Okay, thanks, Dan. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Adam,
Adam, are you still there? He's-
Adam, do you want to unmute?
Can you hear me now through my computer?
Yes. Okay, I'll restart.
I was a yes.
Perfect. Chris,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Sherelle,
No.
Louise,
No.
Shane,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Tate.
Yes. Motion carries. This will now go to the county commission though in the morning, correct? Okay. With that being said, thank you guys for coming to the meeting on short notice. We appreciate your time, and motion to adjourn.